Hey guys, PB here from the Home Automation Project. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up face recognition for your Eufy video doorbell. This is one of the most requested video in my channel, and I'm happy to be able to bring the solution. Bear in mind, this is going to be a bit more technically advanced solution. It is not for people who are beginning in the world of home automation, probably, but I will be sharing all the codes with you in the link in the video, so you should be able to pretty much use the code as it is with minimum modifications and be able to get it up and running in your setup. And one more thing to mention, you can use this solution for other video doorbells as well, because it relies on having access to the snapshot from a video doorbell. So I feel that the solution is going to be pretty handy and useful for every one of you. So without further ado, let's get started. Right, so the first step that we are going to do here is we are going to create an automation to publish the Eufy snapshot whenever there is a motion detected on the Eufy doorbell. And for that we need to locate the path of the snapshot. So for that you go to settings, devices and services, and you go to the Eufy integration in Home Assistant. I'm assuming here that you already have the integration set up, and I have this doorbell entity here. On this you will see this event image. If you have already triggered it at least once, there should be an event image down here. You can click on this, go to settings, and then from here you need to if you see the image sensor is called image.doorbell event image, so you need to remember this. And then next you go to developer tools, go to states, and here you can search for that entity, doorbell underscore image. So it's image dot, so the entity here is Eufy doorbell event image. So if you click on this, you should be able to see this entity picture path here, which says /API/image proxy, and then there's this token. Now one thing about Eufy is this token is valid for a certain period of time, I guess for a few minutes only. So if you are trying this project at home, you might sometimes find an error when trying to access this image. For that you need to republish the token once more, and refresh the token so that you have the latest token all the time. But I will show you how to do it, so don't worry about it. So what you need to do is if you find this path here, and then based on this we are going to create an event. So entity picture is the attribute within this sensor, which is your image.doorbell event image. So, and if you see, the path starts with a slash. So before this we need to put the path of the server on which your Home Assistant is running. So the full HTTP address along with the port number 8123, and then we'll do a slash and then API and then the rest of the string will come from the entity picture. So let's do that. For that, let's go to automations and scenes and create new automation. Let's create a fresh new automation. Our trigger here will be from the device doorbell, and when the doorbell motion detector started detecting motion, I'm not going to put any condition, but you can obviously add your own conditions. The action here is MQTT publish. So this is your action, MQTT publish, and in here we need to give a topic to publish and a payload. These are the two important things that we need to do here. So for the topic, I'm going to give something like doorbell /snapshot, let's say. This is a topic which will be published in Home Assistant server, and the payload, this is where we need to put the payload of the address of that image that is getting captured at runtime. Because of the changing nature of the token, obviously you need to access it to a variable. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put down a string. Let me actually put it down as a JSON format. Okay, so now I have created this automation. So the key attribute here is this one, which is a variable which says state attribute image dot doorbell event image entity picture. So this will give us the path which starts with that slash API, and before that I have added the path to my Home Assistant production instance, and I have just put this down as a JSON. Because it's a useful format to have. You don't necessarily need to do that. You can put down the path as it is, as the only payload as well. It's just that it's future proofing it in case I need to pass more, publish more parameters as part of this topic, and then I can do that neatly using a JSON. So once you will also notice I have added a delay of 1 second. The reason for that is because I've noticed that because my doorbell this is a Wi-Fi doorbell, I've noticed that sometimes there's a delay in the snapshot getting refreshed or the token getting generated. I have not found the need to increase more than 1 second, and 1 second is pretty fair. I'll show you that, like in that 1 second delay as well. Even then, the notification from my automation comes to me faster than actually the mobile notification from Eufy itself. So yeah, and my automation already has the face detection built in, so that I'm pretty sure this delay would not harm. You might need to tweak with this delay depending on how slow or fast your network is. If you have a relatively fast network, you might even bring it down to 300 or 500 milliseconds. For me, 1 second was perfectly well, so I have kept it at that. If you do see that there's some misses, like your face is not getting recognized, that could be due to this reason, that the latest snapshot is not getting passed to your program. So in that case, you will have to tweak with the delay as well. Right, so this is a very simple automation, and I have saved it now. And so the only two things that we are doing here, that whenever there is a motion detected, we are publishing MQTT payload with the path to that image. So this is step 1 of our project. So the next step would be for us to write few Python programs. Yes, unfortunately we'll have to write a few code for this project, but I will be providing all the Python files in my video link, so that you're able to download and see the steps for yourself. But let me go through the steps now. I'll try to break it down as much as possible for you guys to understand it easily. Right, so I've opened the Visual Studio Code here, and I've created a folder. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to add a Python file. Let me call it mqtt underscore subscribe. So our .py, yeah, we should not forget the extension. So the intention is that the first step is we subscribe to that MQTT payload that we just created. So every time there's a motion detection on the doorbell, it will publish the path to that image. So our first step is to write our own program to capture that image. What we are going to do is, first we are going to capture that image by subscribing to that topic. Next step will be to pass that image through our own facial recognition software. In this video I'm going to use Comperface, but you can use any other software. The reason I'm using Comperface is because that is a setup I already have running in Docker, so I'm going to just use that. But I have also tried it with some of the other more powerful facial recognition software such as FaceRecog and others, and it works perfectly fine. So for subscribing to MQTT topic and for publishing to MQTT topics in Python, you will need a library called PAHO. So it's a fairly standard piece of third-party software that is used for all MQTT messages, and it's pretty powerful and does the job very well. The other thing that you'll need is some kind of way to read the MQTT messages for debugging. So the tool that I use is MQTT Explorer. I am on a Mac, and MQTT Explorer works pretty well. So let me bring that interface up. Right, so this is the MQTT Explorer. I've already connected to my Home Assistant web server, and it is already reading off the various topics that are getting published. you can see that there's already a topic called doorbell, which has this snapshot published. This is from before when I was trying it out, but this is how it will come here. Once you connect, you should be able to, and if you have executed that code once, you should be able to see this topic here getting published. That's a good way to debug it. There are other uses of using this utility as well. For example, if I create a lot of even I was trying out the code, I created a lot of garbage sensors, so I had to delete them, and it is pretty easy with this tool to delete it. So you just select here and click the delete button, and it will delete the topic and all its subtopics and messages in one go. And you can also see the history if you want here of the subtopics. So if I click here, you can see what has changed. So yeah, it's a pretty handy tool. I would definitely recommend it if you're trying projects with MQTT, with your own custom MQTT messages in Home Assistant. This is a pretty handy tool to have. Right, so now that we have connected this, to connect is a very simple thing. You just need to put your MQTT user and password, and also the IP address of the Home Assistant. I'm assuming you are running your MQTT on the Home Assistant server. You could be doing it in your own Docker instance, for example. Then you need to provide path of that server. So in my case, it's same as the Home Assistant, so I have put that path. So let's go back to our here, and so let me write some pieces of code here, and then I'm going to explain them. So the first thing before I move on, we need to write we need to create a virtual environment. It's always advisable when working on Python to create a virtual environment. So just to create the Python terminal, I selected execute. Now here I'm going to create a virtual environment first. So you can create it through command line, or you can create it through the Visual Studio Code interface as well. I prefer command line, so let's do that. So I'm just going to name the virtual environment as .vnv, and let's hit enter. Yeah, I think I need to use Python 3 here. Yeah, so yeah, you have our virtual environment created. Let's activate it. So that's source.vnv/bin/activate. Yeah, so now it's activated. Okay, so we definitely need to install certain libraries to be able to do this. So let me add the imports here. The most important one that we need here is the paho.mqtt.client. So to run this, you will need to install the paho mqtt. So let me do that. So to install, you need to do pip install paho mqtt. So this is the library that you will need. Right, so it's telling me that I can upgrade the pip, so which is fine. Let's do that. Right, so we have installed MQTT client, and the next thing that we need to do is we are going to declare two variables here. So the first one is going to be the topic to subscribe, which is your doorbell slash snapshot, and an empty variable for image URL. This is the URL that we are going to get back from the topic. So yeah, just initiating an empty string. Next, we need to define two functions, which are onConnect and onMessage. So onConnect is a function which will execute to where we are going to basically call the topic to retrieve the data, and on messages where we receive the message back, and that's the one we are going to use to retrieve the snapshot and store it in a file in a temporary location. So this is the code I have here for on connect. So on connect, I'm just saying that I'm connecting to this topic, and I'm calling client.subscribe, which is your default function. Notice that I haven't instantiated client yet, so for that I will put another function, and let's do that. This is the main function where we are going to set the broker address to the IP address of the MQTT server. The port number, this is the default 1883 for MQTT. If you have changed the port on your MQTT server, you need to update it here. Next, we instantiate the client by calling the MQTT client function. You can, if you have a username and password on your MQTT server, then you can set it here. Otherwise, you can skip this line, and then we have these two functions which are used on these two as callback functions to these two methods. And finally, we are connecting to the MQTT server, and we are starting a loop. For now, I have added a way to come out of this loop. I'm putting a time.sleep as one of the arguments that I'm passing here, but you could just hard code it if you wanted, and I'm put the keyboard interrupt as a way to come out of it. Obviously, if you want to make it into a proper application, you will probably run this as a daemon. But I'm doing this simply here to show you how this can work. And the on connect function just checks for the return code is 0, which is a success, and then it clicks then it instantiates a subscribe function. So this goes and subscribes to the topic and waits in a loop. Whenever a message is received, I'm loading the message here into data, and then from data I'm reading this image attribute, and that's the one which contains the URL, and then I'm going to call a function to download that image from this URL. So let's put that function here next. So let's add this function on the top. So download image, so what I'm doing for now is I'm literally using one image file called capture.jpg, and I'm going to put it in this path. So I need to create this path, so let's go ahead and create the folders, images, and images, and under images I'm going to put this folder called doorbell, right? And yeah, this is the path, and this is where I'm going to store. Every time I get an image, I'm going to overwrite this capture.jpg file, because for this demo I just need to get one version of the file all the time. But you could probably keep you can add a random number or something against it, so that you can keep storing the files without deleting them if you want to. It can be used for training the face recognition software, so that's something you might consider. And then I'm simply opening the file. You could use the shortcut method of URL rib. This function works as well in Python, I think Python 2 or Python 3 and above, but I prefer this method because this uses a stream method, which I feel is always efficient if there is a large file coming through. Basically it opens, calls a request using this URL. So the URL is the one which we pass here from the MQTT topic. It's going to connect to that URL, and it is going to then download this file and save it by writing this file to this path using this name. So this is step one. So we have created the publish event on doorbell motion. Now we are going to subscribe to the topic, and every time there is a change to that topic, we are going to receive the new file URL, and we are going to store it in a local folder, image/doorbell. So this is our step one. Step two would be us passing that file through the face recognition software, so that we'll work on that next. So let's save these changes. The one thing, you will need to import a few more things here. So requests is one thing you need to install as well as import. Let's install it. Install requests. So that is installed, and we are going to import it. The other thing you will need is for reading and writing files, you will need OS, right? And what else will you need? Let's see. Yeah, we'll need the JSON library, which is a native library, and last thing that we will need, the last thing we need is threading. Right, so we'll need to create a thread. I'll come back to this. The reason we need to create a thread is because this subscribe here is a blocking function, because this needs to be continuously in a loop and needs to continuously read the topic and download this file. So we need to create this in a thread. Otherwise, in our program where we are receiving the file and we are passing it to the face recognition, it's going to be stuck in this step because this is going to loop forever. So for that, we just need to convert this. We need to invoke this function to subscribe through a thread. So for that, we are going to just instantiate a thread here, and I'm going to just add another function at the very bottom. So def subscribe. So this does it just calls threadings.thread with the target as this function here. Arguments are optional. I just passed one, which is my argument to the sleep function, and then I'm doing a thread start, and I'm just adding a simple print statement to check that it doesn't exit while I'm waiting for the topic to read the file. So that is it. This is should be our function. This should allow us to subscribe and read the topic. If we want to test it out, we could test it out by just commenting out this thread functionality. So, and we could directly, so the way to test it out would be, you could just comment out, you don't need to call the subscribe function. If you want to test the file, just call the MQTT subscribe directly, like so, and you can execute the file here. I'm not going to execute it at the moment. I will look at it altogether, but that's an option for you to debug this. So that's so now we have subscribed to the topic with this. Let's let's pass this file through the face recognition software. Okay, so we are going to now add another file to this project. Let's call it recognize.py. So this is the file which we'll use for face recognition. The first thing that we need to do is we need to find a way to invoke the face recognition API or software. Right, so if I go to the documentation for CompuFace, it gives you this full API reference here, the REST API description. So one of the APIs that it has is this one, which says that it can recognize faces from a given image. So we need to pass this local file to it, and we need to pass the API key and call the API service with some optional parameters. I'm going to probably ignore all these parameters for this test. I'm going to just call the recognize API with the API key and the local file. So let's do that. Right, so of course we'll have to import the requests library, and we'll have to import the JSON library and the OS library. These are the minimum imports we require. Let's instantiate some variables, count, master, names, and names is going to be the recognized names list. For this demo, we are probably going to just stick to one example, but we could use it for multiple scenarios as well. Next, we will instantiate the URL, which is the address of the CompuFace API with the 8000, which is the default port, and then the full path to the recognize API. Next, we need to pass the headers, and the only header we need in this case is the XAPI key. So here in this variable, we need to pass the API key from the application on CompuFace. So you should be able to find it on the application which you are using as a recognized service on CompuFace. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to to this. So we are going to create the file from the image file parameter, and we are going to open it for reading. Then we are going to construct this payload, a file, and then we are going to call the request this URL with header as this one and file as this file. So we need to pass this image file. So for that, let's add a few lines of code up top. So we have instantiated the directory, the file name, and then we have put the os.path.join to give the full path, and this is the image file that we are going to pass to this file parameter, so that we can pass it as a binary file to the request. So this basically uploads, invokes the API. Next we are going to check the response. So let's do a print of the response.txt, and then we are going to add some lines of code like so. Right, so what we are doing here, okay, so what we are doing here, we are checking that the response is 200. So in case if the doorbell detects an image where there is no face, it will return a different code. The 200 success code is returned when it finds at least one face in the image, and then it is going to return a JSON, which I'm going to capture his data. And in this JSON you get a lot of data parameters. If you go to their API basically the knowledge base, where they tell you this is the format in which the API returns response. Age and gender depends on what inputs you passed as well. So age, gender, mask, these are only available if you have passed those. At the more important bits here is the subjects, which gives you a similarity, which is the confidence level, and the name of the subject if it finds a match, and it also gives you, in this box, it gives you the max, x max, y max. So this basically is the boundary of the box and the probability that there is a face in that boundary. So these are the important ones. So just retrieve the box boundaries, and I've also retrieved the subject from subjects subject attribute under subjects JSON, and the confidence is the similarity under the subjects JSON. So once I've got these two, I'm instantiating a count. So if there is at least one of these values, there must be a face which is detected. Next, I have set a minimum percentage of confidence that I have found to be a suitable one to be able to detect a valid match. So I have put it at 0.75 or 75%, and if the confidence is above this, then I'm giving the name of the subject that this API returns. I'm just appending it to a dictionary, and then I'm increasing the count of matched. So let's say there are two faces in the image and there's one match, then the way it will work is the count will be 2, so there are 2 faces, and the match will be 1 if at least one of them is a match. Otherwise the name will be set to standard unknown. So then I'm printing how many matches I found out of how many faces. So it's a very easy to understand piece of code at the moment. Next step, we need to publish these as sensors into Home Assistant, so that we are able to use that as an automation to trigger a notification to a mobile or to trigger any kind of home automation. So this is a bit of the advanced part. Let's save our changes to now. The other thing that I want to do here is, although I have always assumed that the file is going to be present in this path, that may not be the case. So you might want to check for the if the file is present or not. So to add that check, we need to do another import. So let's do this, import pathlib, and then we are going to check if image path of image file exists, then we want to do all of this, right? So I'm just going to move this whole thing under a big if statement. This is just to protect us from the scenario where the file, like at the beginning right now, there's no file under doorbell, so I don't want this to error out. The other thing that you can do, you can, once the file is there, you don't want the same file to be picked up again and again. You only want the file to be picked up if there is a change in the file. So basically the file has got updated with a newer image, right? So for that we can add a little piece of code as well to check for the timestamp of the file, and if the timestamp is newer than the previous timestamp, that's when we want to pick it up. So for that we can use the datetime library. So let's import the datetime library, and then we are going to do a simple check. So first I'm going to default, so I'm adding two variables, so I'm instantiating the getTime callback function, and then I'm going to add a variable previous time, which I'm defaulting to now. Because the file doesn't exist, I don't have a starting point, so I'm just randomly putting it as a timestamp. And when the file exists, then what we are going to do is this. So let's say the file exists, then we are going to, right, so what we are doing here, we are going to put the time of this new file, of this file. We're getting t in this variable t, we are getting the time stamp of this file, and we are checking whether this timestamp is different from the previous time. If it is, then we are updating the previous time. So this is just to keep checking, to check that the file has actually got updated from the previous file. On its own it doesn't make sense, because right now the way this program has been written, it will only execute once stop. So what I also want to do is need to add a while loop, so that this program should keep on running indefinitely and keep on waiting for the image to be updated, and every time an image is updated, this program is going to trigger. So let's add a while true on top. So let's say here, right, and move this whole thing to the right. Actually this whole thing I'm going to move to under this condition. Okay, just indenting stuff. So, and I have got a try condition, because again I want to be able to stop this. So under this, at the end of this, I'm going to just add an except clause to be able to stop this with a keyboard interrupt. So basically what we are doing is, when I execute this program, it's going to continuously run, and it's going to continuously look for this presence of this file. By the way, I need to indent it up one more. So, yeah, so if it finds the file, then it is going to check for the timestamp. If the timestamp has changed, then it is going to execute the rest of it, which I am going to indent one more time. Yeah, so if the timestamp has changed, then it's going to connect to the URL, and it is going to download it is going to open the file and upload this to this COMPAFACE URL, and it is going to wait for the response, check if there are any matches. If not, label it as unknown, and then give us the matches and the count. So that's your face recognition working in a loop. The last thing that we need to do is we need to remember our subscribe function. We haven't actually executed or instantiated this function yet, so we need to do just before we run any of this, we also want to start that subscribe thread. So for that we are going to import the subscribe program as MQTT sub, and then in the beginning we are going to, somewhere around here, we are going to just instantiate the subscribe function. Let's save this. So as you can see here, this subscribe function will basically create a thread and subscribe to the topic and wait for the file to be downloaded, file to be updated, basically the topic to be updated with a new URL. It will download it to this path, then our function will take over, which is going to look for the existence and the change in timestamp, and if it finds a change in timestamp, then it is going to go ahead and do a face recognition. So this is our third step. We're almost there. Now the last step would be to publish this. Okay, not the last step, but the second last step would be to publish this back into as a sensor into Home Assistant, and then the last step would be to create an automation to read that sensor. So for publishing this back into Home Automation into Home Assistant, I'm going to we need to write another program which it does MQTT publish. Let's take a look at that. Right, so let's create another file called mqtt_publish.py, and in this one let's import the MQTT. Let's do some imports first. So yeah, we are going to import the MQTT client, just the time library, JSON and requests. Yeah, and next we are going to define 3 functions which are required for publishing. So the first function is the onConnect function. We don't need this print statement. So if it is connected, I'm just simply printing that is connected or the connection failed, just as a logging. On disconnect, I'm just saying disconnected. The onPublish is the main function. This is where we are going to basically this is the one which is called when it is publishing a message to a sensor or a topic. As you can see, mine is going to be combination of sensor and topic. Next, let's define the main publish function, which I'm going to give some parameters. Right, so we have this this is the main function publish, which I'm passing few parameters here. These parameters I'm going to instantiate from the recognize program, because this has all the data that we need to use to publish. So I've declared some global variables here, which I'm setting from the arguments that are being passed to the function. The sensor and the topic is the one which we are going to publish. Message is the message we are going to publish to that topic, which will have the names of the recognized subjects as well as the counts of the faces. And there's something called config. So whenever we what I want to happen is, if the sensor already exists, then it is going to simply publish the topic message to the topic. But if it doesn't exist, we are going to use this config payload to first create the sensor, and then we are going to publish the message. So that way we can create as many sensors as we want, depending on the number of subjects that we are detecting. We pass the usual MQTT address, the port, the username, password if optional, if required. And in this case, we are having 3 callback functions: the onConnect, onDisconnect, and onPublish. Then we are connecting to the MQTT server. First thing I'm publishing here is a standard token, a standard MQTT payload. This is like it's not necessary to do this, it's just a kind of a best practice. It's like a heartbeat thing which tells us that yeah, we are able to connect to the MQTT server and we are able to set the face recog service. So I'm calling my service as face recog. So we just publish online message for this face recog. Any subsequent topics that we are going to publish, we are going to check for that this face recog available is online. A topic has an online message, so that we know that we have already connected to it successfully, and it's easy to publish the remaining messages. Also is a neat way to tie these up under one service. The next step is I'm just publishing a config message with a standard config payload, which I'm going to pass. QoS qualitative service I'm setting to 0. If you set it to a high number, there's few more complications involved, but for the purpose of this one, 0 works fine. Retain I'm setting to true. If you want the messages to be retained on the Home Assistant, you can put this to true. If you put it to false, it will publish. Everything will work. It's just that you will not see the history of these messages in Home Assistant. Then the next step is I'm calling the publish function with the actual topic. So this is the one which does the config. If the config already exists, it's going to simply ignore this and just go to the next step on its own. So MQTT is smart enough to manage it. Here I'm passing the topic and the message to be published, and I put it should retain, it should be true actually. Yeah. And then the result, the standard result that comes from this back from this publish is a tuple, and it has two values, but the value which we need to look for is status, which is the value in the 0 position here. And if status is 0, that means it has successfully sent this message to the topic, and if it is failed, then it is a fail, and then I'm disconnecting. So the purpose is that every time we detect a face and there's a face match, we are going to call this publish function to publish that into Home Assistant and then disconnect from the MQTT. You could keep the connection alive and you can publish, so you could run this as a daemon as well, but for our use case, it is fine to just connect, publish and disconnect, because it could be quite some time between two detections, so I just don't want to keep publishing, keep the connection alive for the whole time. So now that we have done this, the most important step is to actually pass these values from the recognize.py. So I found that it's easier if we just define the standard payload and the standard sensors in a config kind of file. So we are going to just add a file. Let's call them hssensors.py, and I'm going to just define the sensors and payloads here. Okay, so I've defined a class here just to keep it all neat and encapsulated, and I've defined some variables here. So it's up to you what you want to, the structure and the names and all you can manipulate with. I've kept it very simple. First one is the faces. So the sensor that I have is this face recog faces, and the topic will be the state topic. And the way I've defined it is that I have given it a unique ID. It is very important. A name and a unique ID is required if you want to publish a sensor as a device, basically in Home Assistant. I have added this availability topic, so it checks for this being present before it creates the sensor. It's just, as I said, it's just like a health check kind of thing. It's not mandatory to have this. Value template, I've just used like a custom template. Again, this is like purely you can define it in whatever way you want, but if you want to reuse it later, it's useful to have these templates defined. And then I've got the sensor and the topic. The reason I have the sensor and the topic separate is because I'm also going to use that to call the config function. And then I've got the matches. So in this one I'm planning to pass, if there are any detection of any faces, I'm going to pass some parameters, and in this one I'm going to pass the names of the actual matches that we do from as part of that face recognition software. Everything is same, it's just the name is different, the sensor name is different, and I've just literally changed the faces to matches. Yeah, that's what I've done. It's a very simple payload definition. Now coming back to, now let's go to this recognize.py and add a couple more imports. So I'm going to import this MQTT sensors class from hssensors, and I'm also going to import this publish function. Next, we are going to create these payloads to pass. So for the faces, let me define the payload now. For debug, let's add a print first, and then I'm going to add this variable called faces, where I'm going to pass the count, which is the count from the above, and the matches, which is this matched value. So count, let's say count is 2, match is 1, and then I'm just going to put this date time as a so I have already imported the datetime library, so I'm going to just use the datetime.now. So that's your basically this is the message that I'm going to publish to the faces state topic, and I'm going to call the publish function like this, So if you remember, we have this publish function where we need to pass the sensor topic and payload. So if I go here, so what I've done is I've just used the sensors that we defined here, the faces sensor, the faces topic, and the faces payload, and I passed this variable. This is the actual message that is going to be published. So pretty neat. So the same thing we can do for matches. So let's me define the matches sensor, or rather the message, MQTT message. So here I'm passing this so names, this is the names array, so I'm going to pass this, or dictionary, we are going to pass this names dictionary. I'm going to pass the image file path. It's up to you, you can pass many more variables if you want. I'm just keeping it simple, and again, as a last record, I'm just putting the timestamp. So that's it. Now we have, once we have a detection, we are going to publish the faces detected, we have published the names of the matches detected, and we are if the sensors don't exist in HA, we are going to create them. So that is mostly it. Now if we ideally, if we run this function, it should first invoke your subscribe. It should wait for the topic to be updated. Once the topic is updated, we are going to then get we're going to get an image, which we're going to image file basically, which is going to pass through the face recognition, and then we are going to match them and publish it back as a sensor in Home Assistant. Right, so now I'm on my Home Assistant server, and to test this whether this code is working or not, the first step would be to publish. Before I do that, let's delete this topic, doorbell, and yeah, so we have deleted it here. Now I'm going to test it by invoking this publish. So let's run this action ran successfully. Then if I go here, as you can see, the doorbell topic has been published with the snapshot path. So step 1 is working fine. Now what I'm going to do is I will so this is my production version of the code. So I'm going to invoke this function recognize.py, which is going to subscribe and run the topic. So if you keep a watch here, under doorbell there is no file at the moment. So let me run this function. So let's right click and run Python file in terminal. Right, so as you can see, it has done a few things. So it has created this capture.jpg. so the subscribe function worked and it brought this file here. Then it passed this file through the ComputerFace API for looking for faces, and it has not found any faces here. We will need to create one which should recognize me. So at the moment my image is there in ComputerFace, I should be able to recognize my image. So keep a watch here. So I have got the Eufy doorbell right here in front of me. So let's try that. I'm going to bring the keep a watch here, and I'm going to bring the doorbell. I'm going to point the doorbell to my face, and hopefully that should trigger a new capture, which should have my detection here. So at the moment, if you see here, the names, the count is 0 and the names is blank. By the way, since we published the sensor, let's go and have a look if the sensors got published. So while here you can see face recognition available is online, and under Home Assistant topic under sensor you can see this face recog. So we already published, so we published a config, and our count is 0, match is 0, and under our matches topic again the names is empty. So this is how it looks. So one of the things you will need to do is you need to check that on your Eufy app you have the option on with the snapshot. Unless the option for mobile notification is not on in your Eufy app, it is not going to create the snapshot image, so you can't run this automation. So let's try this. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So as you can see here, the file so here the capture image has got updated. Yeah, there it is. and down here you can see it has recognized the subject with a probability match, and it has published this names, my name and the match as 1. So let's go here, and in developer tools, if we go to this states section and let's look for face recog variables, so you can see the face recog faces. This one has a count of 1 and match of 1, and the matches, you can see the friendly name, the match of my name that I've set up in CompaFace against my face. That's the one it has picked up. So yeah, definitely it's working. Now the last step would be to just create a simple automation using the sensor values, and then we are golden. So let me do that. Right, so here's a simple automation. What I've done here is I'm looking for this face recog matches sensor, and whenever there's any change to its attributes, I've added a condition here that the toState attribute.names length of this should be greater than 0, which means that there should be a match, at least one match. And then I'm sending a notification to my mobile, and I'm using a custom data template to do that. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for this. If the name is unknown, so I'm just saying someone is at the door, but if the name is match, then I'm saying I'm bringing the name from that sensor, so the name's 0 value. For this automation, I've just kept it at as simple the first name that we detect if there are multiple matches, and then I'm publishing the path to the image, and here I've again used the relative path. So I've captured the path from the sensor of the doorbell event image entity picture attribute, and I have given an action to view the image, and this is going to notify my mobile app. So this is a very basic automation that you can do, and yeah, this should work. So let me bring up the mobile screen and we should see this in action. Right, so I have my Android phone here right now, and let's do this thing. Let's bring the Eufy, so I'm going to point the Eufy device to my face, and hopefully that should trigger my routine, and it should then trigger this automation, and it should show notification on my mobile. So let's give it a try here. Okay, let's wait for this routine to trigger. There you can see that's triggered, and there you see, so it has detected my name, hello PB, I see you. So that's the message we had, and here you have a link to view the image. Point to note is that you can see the Eufy notification came in now, so it's actually the automation that we have done is way faster than the Eufy notification, so that's a very interesting fact to note. And if I click on view image, it should open this image URL. There you go. So that's it. That's all for this video. I wanted to show you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Okay, so that's all for this video. Hope you liked it. I know this has been a bit of a technically heavy session, but I feel that this is a very useful and powerful automation to have, and you can extend this to any kind of camera software that you have, any kind of camera you have, where as long as you have the snapshot access in Home Assistant, this should work quite well. And if you did like it, do not forget to hit the like button, and also please subscribe to my channel. It'll help me to bring more such exciting and interesting videos to you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, stay safe and stay connected.